Welcome to Makers International, a podcast of makers from around the world, talking with makers from around the world. Here's Jamie Page, Steve Twidell, Chris Cute, and now your host, Richard Morley.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good times, whatever time it is, wherever you're listening. Joined with me, as always, Mr. Chris Cute.
And sorry for it right now, but hello.
Apologies in advance. Steve Twidell.
Well, howdy, y'all.
Jamie Page.
Hello. And
joining us this week, the very lovely, the very special, the wonderful, the one and only, it's Anna
B. Just leave it at that. Richard, move on.
Anna B. Anna Concrete.
And she's crying already. We haven't started.
That was Chris's comment beforehand. Anna, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. Honestly, I'm speechless. I'm so chuffed that you braved us, because we're nearly 3 years old now, and you must have seen one of the episodes, and that surely was enough to make you think twice. But anyway, you're here. We've got you for the next hour. We will be delving into your past, your present, hopefully your future, find out what makes you tick, what makes you go. And I know a lot of people have been looking forward to this, because a couple of people have actually messaged me and said that they were looking forward to it as well. And actually even Kat's watching, hopefully. So that says it all, really. We will be back with you in just a few moments, so please don't run off. We will just, as always, we'll go through the shout outs and the thank yous, which this week are a little bit more than normal, a little bit less than we'd hoped. But anyway, we've got Jake Thompson, our winner from the insane giveaway that we did last week, Alan Scannell, Mark Christopher, Jim Dockrell, Harneal Media, and Andrew McQuillan. So huge shout out, thanks, and big up to those folks. Jake, I'm actually quite jealous of you winning the giveaway, but hey, never mind. As always, this week's podcast is brought to you in part by Yorkshire Grit, the Woodtones Abrasive Paste, our good friend Chad over at Mancrafting, Pam from Highland Boxes, and also Steve Harneal from Harneal Media, who sorts out our website. If you want to find out more about our sponsors, more about us, I don't know why you would, but certainly more about the people we have on, go to our website, makersinternationalpodcast.com/sponsors. And Jamie's probably put something on there that's, worth reading.
Maybe, like my bio.
So you won't be on there reading much for very long. Chris,
it'll be a quick trip.
Do we have any random listener questions from the interweb over the last week or so?
Yes, we do. And before we get started, I just wanted to make sure and say, I hope everybody had a very Merry Christmas and enjoyed their time with their families, friends, or by themselves, whatever the case may be.
Oh, freaking ho.
Yeah.
How many kids have you got, Steve?
Well, Steve, even the Grinch took a sleigh
about
ride.
500 last count, I think.
Even the Grinch took a sleigh ride on Christmas. All right. Yes, we do. And there'll be more about this gentleman later on, I'm sure, in the show. Jamie will probably entertain us with that. But Steve House had a question for us. Steve, obviously part of the Fools with Tools podcast.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. The other Steve.
Oh, not the real Steve.
Not the real Steve. The other Steve.
Okay.
The pretender.
Yeah.
He wanted to know, are there, and apparently this is a serious question, which is strange coming from Steve. Are there, he says, are there any skills, crafts, or trades that you want to try and or learn, but are a little intimidated by? And so that's the reason why you haven't tried them, learned them, or delved into them yet. So are there any kind of things that you would like to learn and just haven't done so because you've been intimidated by them? That's the question. So whoever wants to go first.
There's a lot of things that I want to try, but I wouldn't say I've been intimidated by them. It's just the fact that I've not really had the chance to. One of the things I definitely want to try is got to be leather working and metal working, especially because one of the reasons of metal working is definitely because of Steve, and after seeing what he's done.
Awesome. Great answer. You sucked up well, Jamie. Good for you.
Suck up.
Anna, how about you?
There is a lot of things I would like to learn, but I am not doing it. I'm not
Intimidated?
exactly. Yeah, I just don't have a chance to exactly like Jamie. If I could, I would probably learn a lot of more stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Stephen, I mean, I have a hard time seeing you being intimidated by anything, but is there anything that you haven't done that you kind of shy away from just because it's something that you're a little bit intimidated by?
No, the only thing that intimidates me is the price of things to get set up.
That's a good
I mean,
point.
yeah, I mean, I'd love to do blacksmithing. It's one thing I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to try glass blowing and glass work, but the cost of setting any of that up is, I mean, I know you can do it cheaply, but cheap isn't necessarily safe either. So, you know, there's always some cost, and I have no cost. So when there's some cost, I can't afford it.
Well, I hear you. And then, you know, it's doing things cheaply. You know, that has its pluses and minuses, but it's not always the path to get the experience you're hoping for either. I mean, you know, because there's obviously, I mean, you can melt glass and then try to blow it at a very cheap cost, but that's not exactly the glass blowing experience that I, you know, envision when I think about maybe getting into glass blowing. What about you, Richard? I mean, I don't see you getting intimidated by much at all, but I mean, who knows?
I think I don't want to come across as smug here. That's not the intention, but I genuinely think that the word intimidated is not the right word. And I think most people are sort of eluded. I think you're asking the wrong type of people if you're going to say intimidated, because
you smug bastard.
No, because Jamie and Steve both hit the nail on the head, and I think Anna alluded to it as well. I don't necessarily get intimidated by things, but cost is always an issue, because like Steve said, you know, doing it cheap isn't always the right way to do it, and I think we all know that. It doesn't matter what the discipline is. I think interest plays a bigger part than intimidation, and then cost, because I think there's got to be an interest in order for you to justify the cost to give it a go. But glass blowing is something that I really, really want to do next year. There's a place near us. Kat's already done a couple of fused glass projects in workshops, and the person that does those kind of days, experiences, courses, whatever you want to call them, also does glass blowing, and I'm well up for that, because I haven't seen anyone do glass blowing.
No, I haven't either.
That's the other thing.
And I think it was Sebastian who first brought that up when we had Sebastian on with us. He mentioned,
right. Yeah.
He mentioned it, and everybody kind of went, you know what? I agree with you. That would be fun to do. As far as me, I mean, I think, Richard, you nailed it on the head. I think intimidation has a lot to do with your limited interest. You know what I mean? And so I can honestly say that if I was going to, I don't know, quote something as intimidating to me, I would like to learn how to use and operate, you know, a CNC, but I don't necessarily have the interest in learning it. I mean, I have the interest in seeing the finished product. I just don't have the interest in going through and learning all of the code and the crap that I know I need to do in order to get that done. There may come a time that I want to do that, but if I was going to be intimidated by anything, I think because, you know, I'm not the most computer savvy person in the world. So, I mean, obviously there's going to be a big learning curve. So I think intimidation might have to do with the learning curve, you know, for me more than anything else. And so that basically would be my answer. CNC, just because I don't know how to use one, and while it would be great, I don't really have as much interest in it as a lot of people do. And I don't, you know, I'm not saying they're nerds, but I mean, you know, pocket protectors.
I think the advantage we have as a community of people that watch other people's videos is you don't necessarily need the experience per se. You can kind of work your interest against other people's videos. So Chris, you could look at CNC videos and think, oh sure, yeah, it's kind of interesting, and maybe I might look at a blacksmithing video and go, oh, maybe not, in terms of materials. But of course, that brings us on to a really good point, because there was it was quite fashionable early part of this year, late last year. A lot of people were making things out of concrete tables, concrete countertops, and things like that. And I personally looked at those at that point and just thought, concrete, really? That's not something that I think I'd ever think of or do. But having watched a few more videos, and actually Anna's videos as well, because Anna, you work quite a bit in concrete. Kind
What
of
a segue.
Sparks an
God.
interest.
So first of all, I think Peter from Pete's Bunker made glass blowing already, but not on YouTube, only on Instagram. He made it in Poland, I think. And it was awesome. It was, I think, a rose or something. Great job. Secondly, we would be not really maker if we are intimidated to do something.
Right. No, I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get into what we're doing because we were intimidated. We got into it because it interested us, and we have a desire to do a lot of things. So I don't, like you said, Richard, I'm not sure intimidation is the right word. I think interest, and the subset of that would be the cost, because I may have an interest in doing something and just basically cannot afford it. I mean, because I wouldn't mind getting into metalworking and blacksmithing and things of that nature, but I know I would have to build that kind of shop outside of my house, to where, if something caught fire, I wouldn't be without a home, so there's a lot of cost involved with getting into that hobby, much like there's a lot of cost involved with setting up a wood shop and the tools and things of that nature. I mean, you really have to have the interest in order to get into it. So intimidation, yeah, maybe not so much. More cost and more interest, I think, is the answer to that question, Steve. I don't know. Maybe I got it wrong.
Definitely. Well, I want to talk to Anna about her concrete, because that's not a material that I think of as it's a building material, obviously, but much more kind of civil engineering-y. The only thing I've made out of concrete before is a big concrete pad to put something on, like a shed or a garage or something like that. So how did you get into kind of that almost small scale concrete as a material to use for building projects, and what do you actually make out of concrete?
I think I'm doing everything with concrete, small pieces, but also sculptures and stuff like this. Table plates. Yeah. I just like to try to do everything what's in my head. That's the motivation, I guess. I saw a picture of a table on Pinterest. It was a picture of a table for a garden, and I thought, I would like to have something like this, but didn't find anything to buy. And actually, it's how it starts. Everything.
Now, because I mean, in case everybody has never worked with concrete before, and if you're looking at a table like Anna, you're talking about, even a dining room table, you can't just pour a form or build a form, pour the concrete, and then take it out of the form, and voila, you have a table. There is reinforcement that has to go into that table to handle because concrete in a lot of cases will fail because of the weight of itself. I mean, if you make a big sphere, like a round table, I'm guessing for like a kitchen dinette, and you just pour that inside a form and then pop it out and then try to put it on a pedestal, and somebody leans on it, that's going to crack just because there's no reinforcement in it. So it took some time for you to get, I would assume, to get in and actually learn how to do it and do it correctly.
Yes, of course. But I am doing this with almost everything what I like to do. I read a lot of about concrete and how to do it. Made some workshops.
Out of curiosity, is there let's say a different kind of concrete for, let's say, a table to a plate to a sculpture? Would you use one for that, one for another, etc., etc.?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always something different. Depends what you like to do. Yeah, how smooth it should be at the end, and how should it looks like. There's, I think, over 1,000 possibilities how to mix it and how to do it. Yeah.
So for instance, Jamie, you're not going to make a plate using the same concrete that you would if you poured a slab, like Richard was talking about, because you don't want the concrete for a slab, as I'm sure you all know, has very large aggregate in it, meaning stone. And so if you were looking to make a nice fine plate out of concrete, you can't use it because that aggregate is obviously way too big. You have to get a different type of mixture. And like Anna said, there's a million types of different ways to mix concrete. It just depends on what you're using it for. Richard?
No, I was just going to say, when you were talking about the reinforcements, I always think of things like steel mesh and steel rods that you tie together with thinner bits of wire to create like rebar. Yeah. But we also get like almost sheets of it in like a square grid that you can then cut up into whatever shape and put in the middle of the form to give it like strength and rigidity. But do you find that, I mean, how big a thing can you make before you have to think about expansion and contraction? Because if you make, I'm thinking, if you make a really big dining room table or like a countertop that's going to be, say, 3 meters long, that will expand and contract.
Not really. I have enough place for doing this, but it will be already difficult. Yeah, so I'm still learning a lot of things and trying to do small pieces to not waste my resources. I am paying for everything alone, so it's difficult to make big pieces just like this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still popular, guys. I mean, and I don't, because I mean, do you remember? I don't know if it was a couple of years ago or what the case was, but there was a real big push of people making concrete countertops for their kitchens, and I don't know if that's still as popular as it once was or not. But the whole point of using concrete for that purpose was that there was always a substructure beneath the concrete, and obviously the benefit of the concrete was that it was super friggin' durable. And I don't, is that still popular? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know it was for a while.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, they're actually gorgeous. And you can color concrete too, right, Anna?
There is a lot of friends from Concrete Corporation doing only countertops. So, more than,
And you can add color to it too, right? So that you can change. It doesn't look like a plain gray countertop. You can change the color.
Yeah, you can put some aggregates inside, so make it shiny or glitter, or you can do everything. Yeah.
But you can also add fibers to concrete, can't you, to give it more of a resiny kind of.
That's the point. The steel mesh, it's not really on time because it's heavy, makes everything heavy. So we are using usually a fiber, glass fiber or carbon fiber mesh.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And but I know there's some. I know we have it in much smaller versions here for modeling with kids, but there's it's a form of concrete, but it also has like fibers through it, like I suppose it is like glass fiber, like when you're making up a car body resin or whatever, but it's like a bag full of fibers that you add into the cement that gives it that I don't know, that
rigidity.
That's it. That's the word.
I think with the because concrete as a material, correct me if I'm wrong here, Anna, because you're the expert. Concrete's very strong in compression. So if you press down on it, it's very strong. But if you try and pull it apart, it's nowhere near as strong. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the idea of having like the steel mesh in there. So if it's, say you've got a lintel.
That
So
has
that-
nothing to do with this mesh. It's more like how much water do you use to mix your concrete. There is some blowing medium and stuff like this. Just reduce water. So I am using only 1 liter water for 10 kilo cement. So that's not much.
No, because
that's
there
quite dry.
Yeah, because if I remember right, there are actually formulas on, depending on what you're looking to do. There are formulas as to how much water you should add to the concrete, because you might want to use a thin mix, you might want to use a thick mix, but if you're doing things, there's formulas that you should use depending on your use for it. Because I think what we need to understand is concrete works very well with gravity when something is sitting on it and supporting itself. Concrete doesn't work well when you leave it hanging out and there's no gravity between the weight and the ground. That is where it becomes very breakable. But when they're supported to some extent, whether you're using rebar or the fiber mesh you're talking about, then it's a very durable material. I'm just curious, what kind of things have you made using? I mean, you talked about tables, man. I'm looking at that sculpture next to you, Anna. Did you make that out of concrete, or what did you do with that? How did you do that?
That's what I'm teaching from the local community college. How to do some kind of things like this. This one is painted, so
that's awesome.
Yeah,
It's a nice mod. It's a nice model of Jamie.
Yeah, he's got the same amount of hair as well.
It looks like his
Do
death
you know
mask.
He has only 1 ear because it's a guy. He just listens with 1 ear. So
I was expecting you to turn around and pick that up then, and then I thought, actually, no, you can't. That's concrete.
there's no ear on the other side.
I like it.
So he's half deaf.
Yeah.
Pardon?
So when you made that, did you make that in a mold, or was it like you do it with pottery and clay and you sculpted it with it?
Like with clay or something like this.
Oh wow, that's really, because my experience of concrete is that it's kind of wet and sloppy, and it would just kind of blah, and wouldn't support itself until it's wet. So is that why you have it quite a dry mix?
There is there is steel mesh. I am forming to a bust or something similar, and I am putting concrete on this mesh. Mostly, I am using I don't know how it calls, but it's
Paper mache. Paper mache, no?
No, that's
it's not like chicken wire, is it? That you can bend.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, gotcha.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so it's the same as you would do a paper mache model as well. You'd put like a mesh, then add the paper mache, but instead you're using concrete or cement. Yeah. Okay, cool.
And then forming it and using your tools to put the details in before the concrete dries. I mean, there's a point in time where it is that sloppy mess, Richard, but that's where it gets down to the water mixture, how much, how little, or whatever the case may be. But you get it to a certain point to where you can actually start carving the concrete before it has cured, and then you smooth it out from there, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a question there. How do you remove the trapped air or surface bubbles from the concrete? I mean, I presume you do it like you would if you were doing a raft. You'd temper it and bring the water up to the surface and then smooth it, would you?
No. using flowing mediums. So for the concrete where I don't like to have any bubbles, I cannot shake it
Right.
Okay.
because it doesn't work. A lot of people saying, yeah, you need to make some vibration on it and the bubbles will go up. No, that doesn't work because, yeah.
Well, the concrete's heavier than the air that's trapped. But I think what he's asking, Anna, is when concrete is curing, obviously a lot of the water that's in the concrete rises to the top, and that if you just let that sit there and then it dries, you end up with some surface bubbles in the concrete. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know what you are talking about. I'm covering with foil and of course with heat blanket.
Got it. Okay.
But the most part of job makes the chemie I'm using for mixing it.
I think it's going to be a very different. I mean, like going back to the making a raft for a garage that might be 6 inches deep. Like Steve would say, you'd tamp that with a bit of wood, or you'd float it off so the water rises up, all the air bubbles come out. That's going to work because effectively your concrete is in a box; it's got nowhere to go. But when you're trying to form it around that mesh kind of foundation for your bust, you can't do that because it's all going to fall to the floor and just end up in a big one. So I think what you're trying to say, Anna, is to work with that same material but in a very different setting. You need to approach it in a very different way, in the same way you might treat wood differently on a lathe to on the bench, on the flat. You can't, it's the same material, but you've got to work it in a different way because it's going to react in a different way because it's in a different place. It's not the same.
To answer this question, you need to think about what is concrete. It's cement with water and some aggregates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the aggregates make the difference. And the proportion, how you mix it all, just make 1,000 possibilities out of concrete, out of cement.
It's almost more like cooking than it is.
Yeah.
It's effectively a recipe, isn't it? A 3-part recipe gives you a different consistency, gives you a different. It's like making omelets.
For the sculptures, I am using roofer mortar, so it's already with some fibers inside. It's pretty simple to handle with.
And very fine aggregate.
Yeah, all of my students come really good with this, and yeah.
And gravity is your enemy.
So once you've got your shape, the thing that you're making, whatever it is, and it's cured and it's dry and a big solid lump of concrete, how do you then finish it? Because I've seen some videos where people using like sanders and sandpaper to smooth it off and get it really smooth, like a marbly glass finish. How do you get those? I'm thinking back to a countertop for a kitchen. I'm in my head struggling to see the concrete that I'm familiar with, like on a garage floor or a pavement, to a beautiful smooth kitchen surface that I'm going to prepare food on. There's got to be. How do you kind of change it to that?
Exactly the same. That's the two different kind of concrete. So you cannot just say, okay, it's the same. It's not.
Right.
You need
okay.
very different aggregates to to reach both of consistency. So, yeah.
So when it dries, is it dead smooth? If you mix it properly, because you're looking for a smooth finish.
If you want to have it smooth and you mix it properly, then it will be smooth. But yeah.
Well, that's genuinely fascinating.
The mold where you are putting it, it needs to be smooth, and yeah, everything.
I mean, it depends on the liquid content also, Richard, and the fine, because you can use very, very fine aggregate in concrete, and as you know, water will find its own level. So it will flatten itself just by the nature of gravity. It will, it will be very, but as far as finishing it and smoothing it, because once it cures, you do have to do some work to it. And I mean, do you use sandpaper, or what would you use if you really want to use a polishing compound? I mean, I don't know. How do you make that concrete, once you've got it to where you want it to be, to shine, I guess is what the question is.
Actually, I'm doing it with my favorite tool, and it's flex, flex sander with water.
It's probably wet and dry paper, is it? Or
yeah, it's like diamonds.
Got it. Okay. No. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I got it. It's a very fine thing. So you can actually get that down to where it's so smooth that you could actually polish it to put a shine on it, because the concrete itself it's not gonna shine. You have to actually give it the shine, but you can get it to the point where it'll accept it, right?
That's not really correct, because I was already pouring some concrete on glass.
Oh.
And it was shiny from along.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like I mean, I don't know how much building work you've been around, any of you, but if you actually see concrete that's been poured onto plastic,
yes.
onto sheet plastic, when you pull that plastic back, the concrete is actually shiny underneath where it's sat on the plastic. When you pull it back, it actually has a shiny, smooth finish.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Look at me. I just fucking learned something.
You learned something different.
I think there's a good channel that I don't know if he's still going now. I think it's DIY Pete, and I think he used to do a lot of concrete projects. And yeah, some of them were quite interesting to watch, where he used to colour concrete, and I think he made like an outdoor bar and like countertops and log storage and all sorts out of concrete, and some of them were really good.
Well, Anna, it's awesome, and you're an inspiration when it comes to that medium, because I mean, I saw you doing it, I hadn't seen anybody else do it, and I just thought, wow, what a cool idea. So, props to you. But I want to know about Anna. Tell me about yourself, lady. I mean, give us your story, because you started somewhere and it brought you to where you are today. So, if you don't mind, we want to learn about Anna today too, because I mean, we know the work you do is awesome, but we want to know how awesome you are. So, brag about yourself for a bit.
Not at all.
I mean, were you an adopted child? I mean, come on. I mean, listen. I mean, tell us your story. And I mean, what brought you to where you are today?
So 3 years ago, my husband passed away, and I'm telling it because it makes me make things. I was before just like a housewife, cooking,
Right.
cleaning, everything else. But there was, after he passed away, pretty much emptiness, and I needed to do something, to not to think too much about everything, and trying to
You were trying to fill a void, obviously, because a huge one was left. And I'm sorry to hear that, Anna. I did not know that about you. But I understand. So rather than, well, I assume that some things came up, and he was no longer around to take care of them, and you said, well, I got to do it, or it's not going to get done. So you started there. Yes. Yeah, okay.
I just start to study, and that's why I was looking for some inspiration on Pinterest and stuff like this. that's why I start to make all of these workshops and learn how to everything about woodworking and about concrete and stuff like this, because I just was keeping me busy.
That's it.
Do you find you make things that you require, like a table? Make a table because you need a table, or do you make a table because you want to make a table? Do you do it just for the sake of it, or do you do it because there's a kind of a need for the finished thing that you're making? Does that make sense?
Oh, actually, it will be probably cheaper when I buy it. So.
I think we can all relate to that. Yeah. Sure. But I mean, there's obviously from what's happened in the past has got you into making to be busy and to be active and to get on with things. But do you get on with those things? Are those things something that you've got a use for, or do you just go, I want to do it just because it's something to do, so I'll build? And if that's the case, then where do you get the thing that you're going to build? Do you just get to see it? Oh, that's cool on Pinterest, so I'm going to make one of those. Or do you go, I need one of those, then go to Pinterest, find a few, and go, I'm going to make that one?
Oh, I'm actually in this lucky position to make what I would like to make, not what I need to do. So.
So if it interests you, you'll do it.
Something in my head, and it's just need to go out of my head.
I get that. That's called inspiration. You're inspired to do something, and it won't leave you alone until you try it, and so you try it. Awesome, good for you. That's what they call being artistic. And
I've got a two-part question for you. You actually speak more than one language. Obviously, you speak English and the language of your motherland, let's say. How many other languages do you speak?
Well, I learned at school Russian and French, but French I can maybe say two sentences and then it's done.
It's so, like you know enough to get your face slapped.
German, English, Polish.
Monge too, Rodney.
So, you live
the second part of the question was boxer shorts oder Unterhosen.
Well, you butchered that, Jamie.
He's trying to be clever and ask you the question. Hey, Jamie, ask it in English. I think she'll get it.
Boxers or briefs?
Unterhosen, das passt schon.
And if you don't know what Unterhosen is, then look it up on Google. I mean,
Google Translate is your friend. Well, I think we learned one thing from that, Anna, and that is that your English is far better than Jamie's German. But because we've talked a lot about concrete, and I think I could probably talk all night because I genuinely find it fascinating because it's something I know. Obviously, I thought I knew a little bit about concrete, and I've just realised, chatting for you for the last 10 minutes, that I know nothing about concrete. But you also do wood turning, don't you? And I think we all. How long have you been turning wood?
Since 4 months.
Oh, so you're very new to it then. Okay, and because you've got the same, I believe, the same lathe that I've got, a small little MIDI lathe painted dark green.
With no variable speed.
With no variable speed, because that's the way forward. Yeah, you don't need variable speed. How are you getting on with that? I mean, what are you actually turning? Because I've seen you turn some spindle things. I haven't noticed you. I've probably missed it though, to be fair. Turning any bowls, but what? Where do you see yourself turning?
I actually turn a bowl out of concrete right now.
Okay,
that'll mess your head up, Richard. There you go. Way to go.
Okay.
In your face, Morley.
No, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Okay, right. So you've got how? Let's talk us through that, because if you're not interested in that, then tune out now. and Anna and I will just talk about this. So go on, talk us through that.
I cannot answer you, no, but I will make a video out of this tries. It's not only one, because it doesn't work just like this. But I will make a video about it.
It's in the trial process, Richard.
Exactly. I just do what I like to do. What's in my head, what I see, just like about Stephen, yeah. He made something out of Peter, I think. And I told it's absolutely amazing, and I had some of at home, and I just done something with Peter.
And you did it awesomely, may I add.
Thank you very much.
Anna, how are you doing? I mean, personally, I mean, are you in a good place now? I mean, I know what happened 3 years ago was not easy, but I mean, how are you today? You good?
Yeah, I think so. It was hard here, but I'm okay now.
Good. What do you do for a living? I mean, what is your day job, so to speak, or do you have one?
Furniture.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, hon. I'm sorry.
I sell furniture in high-end store, and we don't. We not only sell, we made projects and stuff like this. Also, bureau stuff, and yeah.
Cool.
High-end furniture. That's. Go on, Jamie. No, you dive in there.
I was literally saying exactly the same as you.
Oh, right, fair enough. Okay, well, I'll jump in then. So that's a store that sells and makes high-end furniture.
Yeah.
Is that like one-off pieces for specific customers, or is it literally a shop that you can go into and there's all the stuff that you've made?
It's just designer stuff.
Right. So presumably they're not production runs of furniture. Now, if you want to buy one of Anna's tables, that's the only one, or there's only a few. Is that right?
It's not the only one, but it's manufactured.
Got it. So you're working in manufacturing. You're just doing it with high-end furniture. Nice. Well, then you've got maker in your blood. I mean, you do it for a living, and then you go home and do it for fun. I mean, God, I love you. No wonder she's working in concrete.
Half a year ago, I was working in a kitchen, so it was not always like this.
Anna, Eloy asked a question with regards to your wood turning. He said, can you tell us about your favorite lathe project so far and the method of making epoxy resin pieces?
I think it's this bowl I made with resin and Peter together.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember, Stephen, but it doesn't work like I.
Yeah.
And I send you messages, and
you had a few issues, all right.
But then I was talking with Guy, and he told me why you don't put some resin inside, so it holds Peter on the wood, and it works. It works
Cool.
very well. It looks awesome, and I love it. That's why I'm doing it again right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Could I just ask, Anna, how do you, presumably when you're sort of experimenting with concrete and all these other methods of using it, presumably they don't all go to plan to start with. So you've got an idea, but it doesn't work. Presumably you get that occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of overcome that? How do you physically? Because I always get, if I've got an idea in my head and I try and make it and it doesn't work, I get really cross and angry and belittled and bemused that it's not working, and like, "Ugh." How do you actually cope with that? Do you just throw it in the corner and move on to a different idea, or do you do it again and again? And
Exactly. I will throw it in the corner till I know how it works. I'm not stopping to research how can I do it and how it works. But I will throw it in a corner and just wait till I know how it works. It's also because of costs.
Oh, sure.
Every try it's so money. So.
See, I think there's a common theme there with most makers. In, you come up with an idea that might be groundbreaking or new or not the norm, and you try it and it fails, and then you try it again in a slightly different way, and you keep going until it's done. And then when it's actually turned into whatever you were trying to make, then you're happy to move on to something else, and you repeat the process. I think there's a lot of people, and I think I'll put myself in this. I get frustrated when something doesn't work. I throw my toys out the pram and that's it. I'm bored of that. I'll move on to something else. But there's a lot of makers who just refuse to give up. That's that kind of mentality of a maker to just, I'm going to make this work. I'll try this and I'll try that and I'll try that. And then it's that sort of inventive spirit almost. And it's obviously coming through from you, Anna, but I think thinking about other people we've had on that have done a similar thing with their own kind of discipline or medium or material. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, and I don't want to speak for everybody, because I think that all of us have had that one project, at least the one that didn't work, and it bugs you until a point in time, like Anna said, until you take the time to actually learn a little bit more about what you're doing, and then you would approach it again, and then you keep doing it until it at least does work, even if it's only functional and not the artistic piece you want it to be. I always go back to things that fail on me. I will always do it. Is it stubbornness? I'm wondering, is it stubbornness, or is it just because we want to see it come to life? We have this picture in our head. Anna, do you have this picture in your head and you want to see that happen? And one way or another, you're going to finally figure it out. It may be next week, it may be 10 years down the road, but sooner or later, you know that you were going to make that happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's stubbornness. I absolutely agree. I will not. It will not give me a peace if I cannot make it.
Got it.
So just to kind of take that to the next sort of, to me, obvious question, have you had any epic fails that have got the better of you?
Of course. Good question.
So what's the most annoying fail you've had then?
Oh, I think I made the table plate I made now for a few weeks. I made already 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And the concrete mix to make this happen costs me every time about €80.
Wow.
So every fail was like a slap in my face, and I needed time to just.
That not only hurts the ego, it hurts the pocket. That's a double whammy. It's like, oh man. Wow.
Yeah.
That's not a plate that you are going to get out when you've got guests. Don't break that plate. Don't drop that plate. That's just cost me months of work. So
that's €5 for the concrete and €75 for the hole she's just punched in the wall.
Or the window she just broke throwing it out of. Yeah.
So obviously the next obvious question to that is what's your biggest kind of thumbs up and success? The most proud, successful thing that you've made?
I was actually able to work in jail with guys. They will never go out. just teach them how to do something with concrete. We made some chairs, like a sculptures, and I think I am pretty proud of it because I was really anxious. They are guys sitting because of murder and rape and I don't know what else. And I am going there with some tools like a flex. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
That is cool.
That is cool. I mean, I'm not you, but I mean, I would have been pretty darned happy with that sculpture that's right behind you too. I mean, that's pretty impressive, man. I mean, it's like, I don't know, but good for you.
I'd say that Richard will actually be commissioning a piece from you soon, Anna, because he's looking to get a step made, and a nice concrete step would actually probably be a good solid job for his workshop.
Are we back?
So,
we're back
maybe get in touch.
We're back to Cat's step again that hasn't been made.
Yeah, the noodle step is not going to be made until 2019 now, which is very disappointing, Richard. Hashtag make the bloody step, Richard.
It's been a year.
Cat, just call me. I will make you a step.
Boom! There you go, Cat. Get in touch.
But
Get
she's
in
got to
touch
pay the
with Anna.
postage.
Yeah, get in touch with Anna because Richard is rubbish.
I can't argue that point at all, and I won't even bother. But talking of the step, moving away from the step. But
What step?
Exactly, trying to spin it as a project that's on my to-do list for the new year. What's your concrete bowl on the lathe? Is that your next project video that you're bringing out, or have you got any other projects in your head that you are willing to divulge?
Well, I don't know. I'm doing stuff because I like to, and I cannot tell you what I would like to do tomorrow.
So you literally just go, ding, I'm going to make that now.
Yeah.
Good for you. I like that. You know what? There's zero stress involved in the way Anna approaches what she does. It's like, I'm in the mood to do this, so let's do it.
Yeah, there you go.
Good for you.
I guess that's kind of a result, potentially a result of why you make. You make to keep yourself busy and to do something. It doesn't matter what the thing is. So why not just go, do you know what? I'm going to make a...
Yeah, exactly. And I am really in this happy position to be able to do it. I am working really a lot because it's not only the store job. I am always also doing some stuff to sell for customers, mostly custom-made sculptures like what's behind me, or just other stuff. And I am also teaching for the community college in Nordheim. So I really work a lot.
You're a busy lady.
To be able to do something what I just like to do. I don't want to have any pressure and I don't want to have any stress because I need to do something. No.
Anna needs to do something for Anna. And that, whatever that happens to be that day is what you do. Good for you.
That's such a cool philosophy. I think we could all take a little slice of that into our own lives. That relaxed, enjoy it sort of attitude. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Anna, you know what?
Yeah.
I think that we've spent too much time talking about concrete with you today. I'd like to have you on again if you're game at some point in the future, because I'd like to know more about you. Just because you seem like a very cool person, and I just think people would be interested in learning a little bit more about you. But in the meantime, do you have anybody out there that you would like to give some love to that, maybe people who might not be familiar with them that you are familiar with that you want to turn us on to? Because we're always excited to learn about new makers. Do you have somebody, a YouTube channel, something, anything?
Yeah, I think nobody knew. It's Tyler Bell. He's just awesome kid. Make just wise stand with some storage, and he's just great.
Tyler Bell.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, check him out.
And also would like to mention Habu needs some help. I think everyone knows Habu already.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to Africa in Metz for 1 month to build some stuff with people living there. So yeah, just watch his last video and.
Awesome. Well, anybody who's listening, the links, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, the links to both of what Anna's just mentioned, to both Tyler and to Habu, will be down in the description. So go down and take a look and see if you can't support those folks too. Anna, thank you. Jamie, you got a Jamie's page today?
I do have a Jamie's page.
Oh, dear God.
Right.
Yay.
The first one is goes to Mr. Steve House. He's just passed 1,000 subscribers.
Yay!
So well done, Steve.
Awesome, Steve. Congrats.
The second one goes to Olsztyn for passing 2,000 subscribers.
All right.
Very well done.
I didn't want to forget Brett, so hello, Brett.
Might as well cover the whole podcast. Why not? And then there's Brett. Okay, you know.
And Mr. Chad Grossclaws from Minecrafting has just passed 20,000 subscribers.
Well done,
There's
Chad.
that. And
Awesome.
a little bit closer to home, our podcast Facebook page has just passed 1,000 likes. So thanks to everybody for the support.
Well, I mean,
Bloody-tastic.
I mentioned this on Facebook. I only liked the page because I thought there was going to be free cookies.
And I only liked it because I post on there.
And I'm still waiting for cookies, and I haven't gotten them yet. But okay,
That's biscuits for those of you in the UK.
yeah, biscuit. Yeah, for
Someone
me.
told me Chris was going to share his beer with me, but
Well, I would. I mean, I got an extra one right here, Jamie. Just come.
I'm
and
not
get it.
having no golden shower.
Especially your golden shower, Chris.
That's not what you said before we went on air, Jamie.
Yeah, we won't go there.
Anyway, I'll get to my shout out now. You can quickly divert the subject. Right, my shout out. Right, so over the Christmas period, I got quite a few messages from people that received a scroll saw willingly or not for Christmas, and they wanted some tips and ideas on where to get patterns and bits and bobs. So that being said, my first shout out goes to Steve Good. Now Steve Good is arguably the king of the scroll saw patterns world, if you like, and king of the scroll saw full stop, if arguably.
He's
So
good.
yeah, he's got thousands of free patterns over on his website, all downloadable, and you just print them straight off. So his website is the scrollsawworkshop.blogspot.com. The second website I'm going to give you is basically a website made by makers as well. It's called makerpatterns.com. That website has got some patterns on there from easy all the way up to the more intricate patterns. It's got some free ones on there, but there's a lot of patterns on there that are really, really cheap as well. And not only is there scroll saw patterns over there, but there's some CNC patterns on there that you can download as well. So yeah, they're the two shout outs that I've got. So both links will be down in the description as always.
Is there any router patterns?
No, there's not. Why would there be?
Richard's over there yawning. Oh, fuck, I love it.
Why would there be?
Steve, what about you? You got anybody you want to chime in with today?
I have. But first of all, I just want to mention that I done something really stupid while talking on the show tonight. And I was fidgeting and I managed to cable tie my finger. And now I've got to find a pair of scissors to get it off.
There's a lot of blood rushing to the end of that finger. You may want to hurry.
It was a very, very stupid thing to do. But anyway, don't do that. My shout out.
That's our service announcement for today.
My shout out is for a channel called MacGyver's Woodshop and Adventures, I think it is. But he made a kids toy barn, which is absolutely brilliant. He made it all out of scrap pine wood that he had in his shop, and just kind of cut it all up and just constructed this barn out of all the scrap bits of wood. And yeah, brilliant. I think it was for his grandson. Great job. So check that video out. MacGyver's Woodshop and Adventures.
Awesome. Richard.
Just very, very quickly, because obviously Jamie's taken up all the time, or what felt like all the time in the world.
Well, if you know a site that does router patterns, by all means, go for it. I won't yawn more than 10 times.
So my shout out this week is Al's Ham Shack, who made a ham thing, and it's an awesome video. So just if you haven't seen it, then I don't know why you haven't seen it. It's hilarious.
Damascus.
It's brilliant. Go and watch Al's latest video because it is quality. But I'm also going to do a very sneaky little plug as well for Anna's channel, because Anna, you're on YouTube as well, aren't you? You are officially a YouTuber.
Woohoo!
So your channel's relatively new in terms of you've got a couple of videos in the last 4 or 5 weeks or so, is it?
Yeah.
So it's growing nicely. Few hundred subscribers. So if you're listening, watching, and all that, go and give Anna some love, because of all the makers in the community, Anna is literally right up there as one of the people very deserving. Because I met you at Maker Central, and you are lovely. And that's just, don't leave it at that. Are you going next year?
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you, guys, again. So.
Fantastic. So I know Chris said that he'd like to have you on the show another time. Assuming we do the live show at Maker Central like we did this year, would you be happy to pop along and say hello to us and everyone there?
Sure, I will stay this year exactly because of this. I was sitting in the train and was listening to the live podcast from Birmingham, and I was so angry I am not there.
Oh,
I mean, you've got the disadvantage if you've got a lot further to travel than a lot of, because you're kind of, I guess, in that middle distance where, like, Chris has come all the way from the States along with a lot of other people. You can stay the extra night, but you're not kind of close enough to stay like we did, because you're just up the road. And
I have already 2 weeks free from my work. Already everything.
Awesome. And we need to talk after we go off air, because I reckon if you've got time and it works, I'd love to get you across here in the conservatory. I'm sure Kat would let me. I'm sure she wouldn't
let you. She may not give Anna to you. I think that she would like to do a collab with Anna before you got a finger on her.
Basically, what he's saying, Anna, is that he's going to build the shutter in, and he wants you to pour the concrete for the step.
I'm afraid of.
Or possibly the foundation for the new workshop. We'll say no more of that. But yeah, that would be awesome if it's possible. I think that'd be cool.
Anna, I can't shine a brighter light on the comments that have been made by the people watching this today on how they think about you and what they think about you. All I can tell you is the majority of them think that you are absolutely awesome. And
is that bright?
And thank you very much for coming on with us today. And we indeed would love to have you on again with us so we can find out more about you and less about your concrete. Because you are very cool, and we look forward to seeing you at Maker Central next year.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Brilliant. Yeah, exactly what Chris just said. Awesome. It's been fantastic having you on. And I know we've run over as well. Time-wise, but hey, no matter. If you are still listening, thank you for listening. If you're not, we will say what we like about you. And this week, we're going to say, what are you doing? It's Anna. So yeah, until I guess next week, before we go, where can people find you, Anna, if they don't already know?
Instagram, YouTube. I don't know.
We'll put the links in the shows and the description and all that stuff. So yeah, awesome. Thanks for coming on, Anna. And I guess until next week or next time, you take care.
Happy New Year, everybody, and have a great week.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year.